Hey, what's up guys? This is Justin. So today, my dad and I are going to the AMC in Middletown, New York to go see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And this is the second installment in the Spider-Verse set of movies that started with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in 2018. So this portion of the video was actually filmed later on. So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is directed by Joaquin Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson, and writers Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and David Callahan. And this movie stars Shameik Moore, Haley Steinfeld, Brian Tyree Henry, Luna Lauren Velez, Jake Johnson, Jason Schwartzman, Issa Rae, Karan Soni, Daniel Kaluuya, and Oscar Isaac. So I completely forgot that I had rewards on my AMC account, so I was able to get this combo for free today. What a bargain. Alright, so the movie just finished. What are your initial thoughts on it? Spider-Man! I think that pretty much explains it. I'll get into further detail shortly. So something different that I decided to do for today was actually go to Chipotle and get an order to go. So I'm eating this. Up outside right now. And then, what is he doing? And then start the review. So similar to all of the other reviews that I've done on my channel, I'm going to be using a synopsis that I found online. Most of the time I use Wikipedia, but since my showing was at 2 p.m., the Wikipedia page for this movie isn't updated yet, so I'm going to be using a plot synopsis that I found on Reddit. And this one is written by user Peter_An_1998. After what happened in the first movie, the multiverse is unstable and some of the villains are transported across the multiverse. Spider-Man 2099, Miguel leads a spider society to fix it. One of these villains is the Vulture, and he ends up in Spider-Gwen's universe. And she's just really confused as to what's going on. And come to find out that it's a villain from a different universe. So while Gwen is looking to defeat this Vulture who's from this different universe, different spider people come along to kind of help assist her. And then that's when she finds out about the Spider Society, and she's torn whether or not to stay in her universe because her dad, who's a police officer, has found out that she was a witness to Peter Parker's murder in her universe, or going with the Spider Society. But then she ends up going with the Spider Society instead. Meanwhile, while this is happening in Miles' universe, he's looking to go to Princeton University to do some more stuff about multiversal travel and sciencey stuff like that. His parents have mixed feelings about it. His dad is going to become the captain of the police force, and along the way, Miles encounters a villain named Spot, who was an engineer who worked in the same laboratory that caused the multiversal travel in the first movie. We come to find out that the spider that bit Miles was actually part of Earth 42, which was not Miles' universe, because his is 1610. Then he turns into this giant white figure with black spots all over him, and when he puts his hand through, it goes like through a portal and then it shows up. It's much easier to visualize this. So then Miles' dad has a party celebrating him going to be a captain. Gwen follows the Spot out of Miles' universe, and then Miles and Gwen end up going away from that universe to go to a different one, which is Indian Spider-Man. And then also within that universe, another Spider-Man, Spider-Punk, shows up to help, but they fail to stop the Spot. And then the Spot escapes, and then things just start to go crazy in the Indian Spider-Man's world. Miles and everybody else are trying to save everybody, but it's not really doing all that much because everything just kind of collapses on itself. Kind of like with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And so this organization that Miguel began, the Spider Society, shows up to cover up all the multiversal mess that's there. And then Miles is brought over to the Spider Society headquarters so Miguel can let Miles know about what exactly is going on with all this, and to find out that every single Spider-Man that has existed has kind of followed the same story, where we have some devastating tragedy that takes place, a sacrifice, you could say, in order to make Spider-Man who he is. This has been true for literally every single Spider-Man that has existed, and they even show clips from different Spider-Man properties, which includes Tobey Maguire's, Andrew Garfield's. The Tom Holland one isn't a part of this one, I guess because of licensing issues. Miles comes out to find the truth about what's going on, and that his own dad is going to be part of this chronology at some point, which Miles doesn't really want to agree with, because out of anybody within the Spider-Man properties, he's one of the only ones that actually has both parents who are still alive. And then Miguel goes on to further explain that the radioactive spider that bit Miles in the first place wasn't supposed to go to him, because that spider was from another dimension. And so Miles' universe wasn't supposed to have a Spider-Man in the first place, but now that it's happened, all of these events need to unfold in order for the Spider-Man canon to work. It's all very confusing. It's all, like, there's so many layers to this. And the reason that the other characters who were present in the first movie, like Gwen and Peter B. Parker, weren't able to visit him is because it would have messed up multiversal travel in that way. Miles goes to leave, but he's being hunted down by all the other spider people to make sure that he doesn't escape. Miles is already aware that his dad is possibly going to die because he's becoming the captain. And so he's racing out, and then to find out that Gwen and Peter B. Parker have known the entire time that this was going to happen, and they didn't tell him. Miles just feels so alone. And so he manages to get back. But then he finds out that he ended up in the universe that the radioactive spider came from, and not his home universe, which is Earth 42. And what makes this even worse is that Earth 42 doesn't even have a Spider-Man, but there is a Miles Morales. And we come to find out, too, that Uncle Aaron in this universe actually happens to live. And then Miles from 1610 is kidnapped by the Prowler, who happens to be Miles Morales. And that sets up all the events for the next movie, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. It's funny, after watching this movie today, I didn't realize that we would have to wait another year to get more Spider-Man content, but here we are. This reminds me of Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, where the events that are taking place are leading to this climax that'll be resolved in another upcoming movie, but just the anticipation between that time is like, what am I gonna do until then, huh? And for this movie, there wasn't a mid or end credits scene. It just had text saying, Miles Morales will return in Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. What was funny is, when I was in the theater with my dad earlier, there was a guy who was next to us, and he was like, "You've got to be kidding me." After waiting 5 years for another Spider-Verse movie, then just to come to find out, oh, this is part 1 and part 2. The thematic feel of this movie, it had lots of crazy elements that I would come to expect from Spider-Man movies. Lots of drama, lots of comedy sprinkled throughout, and everything seemed pretty evenly balanced. Like, one didn't take over the other. What I did find kind of weird, though, was the pacing of this movie, and I think that might have happened with the first Spider-Verse movie, where pacing was a little too fast for the type of story that it was trying to tell. But I think it worked out in its favor because, again, This is part 1 of a part 2, so trying to fit a 3-act structure into a part 1 is a little complicated. Just to have that finished in part 2, and then that second part needs its own 3-act structure. I mean, not all of them need to have their 3-act structure, but when you have one that's split, you're just going to kind of get an unbalance until the next one comes out. Some interesting surprises that I did find out in this one were the live-action Spider-Man properties were included in this, which includes an appearance with the cashier, Mrs. Chen, from the Venom movies, and then Uncle Aaron from the MCU's Spider-Man trilogy, who's played by Donald Glover, which I thought is pretty funny, because Donald Glover was pretty much the inspiration for there to be a Black Spider-Man within Marvel Comics. So I thought that was pretty cool to include him like that. The music choices in this movie, I think, really fit it well. It had a lot of pop-sounding music and a lot of hip-hop, which I come to expect from the Spider-Verse movies, because their hip-hop, the hip-hop influences in here are just incredible and really fit the story. The critiques that I gave, all in good favor, because I know literally any movie will have its shortcomings with the amount of people that are involved with the making of the stories, and especially with the licensing agreements between Marvel Studios and Sony Pictures, and then trying to figure out how to tread around these stories and how it will work out without, like, bothering one company or the other saying, hey, that's my thing, you can't use that. Which I guess is why the MCU Spider-Man wasn't really included in any of this. With Phil Lord and Chris Miller's particular style of comedy, like from other stuff that they've done, the Lego Movie, Clone High, I'm trying to figure out what else they've done, but those are the only two that I can think of off the top of my head at the moment. Like, that comedy style was very much present. Oh, I just remembered. There was Lego Spider-Man that was included in this, and I thought it was so funny. On the screen pops up Lego figures, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's Lego Spider-Man. Woo! So yeah, with all of that being said, this movie definitely was extremely entertaining, and I'm definitely excited to see the next Spider-Verse movie. Like that guy in the theater next to us. It's a shame that we have to wait until March 2024 for this to be released, well, as of right now. Because I know other movies have kind of been delayed, so if that were to happen, then I don't want to be eating my own words later on. But for part 1 of a part 2, this definitely did leave off on some very good notes. And I'm excited to see what happens for the future of the Spider-Verse. So with that being said, thank you for watching my latest recap and review. And if you want to check out more stuff like this, you can follow me on my social media or subscribe to this channel to see more content. But with all that being said, go Web, go.